All right, today we're going to do something a little different. We are going to deconstruct a National General Mathematics exam. But here's the twist. Our mission is not to sit here and solve every single problem. Nope. We're going to analyze its design to understand what skills it's really trying to test.
You know that feeling, right? Sitting there, staring at a test paper, the clock ticking. But have you ever stopped to think about the why behind it? What skills, what kind of knowledge, what ways of thinking is an exam like this actually looking for? Well, that's the journey we're going on today.
So here's our game plan for breaking this whole thing down. We're going to start with the overall structure, the big picture. Then we'll dive into the three big themes that just keep popping up in the questions. And finally, we'll put all the pieces together to see what this test reveals about the skills it truly values. Okay, let's dive in.
First things first, let's just appreciate the sheer scale of this thing. This is not a quick quiz, not by a long shot. It's a 5-hour mathematical marathon split into two separate 2.5-hour sessions. Honestly, it's a test of endurance as much as it is a test of knowledge.
And that 5 hours is split into two very, very different challenges. See, the exam isn't just one giant test. It's made up of two distinct papers, and each one is designed to poke and prod at a different aspect of a student's mathematical brain.
Now, this is where it gets really fascinating, because you can see it's testing two different ways of thinking. Paper 1 is basically a sprint. You've got 50 questions, and it's all about speed, accuracy, and quick recall. But Paper 2, that's a complete shift. It's a deep dive. There are only 10 questions, and the focus changes completely to slow, methodical, in-depth reasoning where showing your work is absolutely everything. So, what are students actually getting tested on? Well, the first major theme that just screams out at you is how grounded this exam is in the real world, specifically in the language of money. A huge portion of these questions deals with practical, everyday financial stuff.
Take a look at this question right here from Paper 1. This isn't some abstract theoretical concept. This is a personal loan calculation, something a lot of people will actually have to figure out in their own lives. This is math you can use.
The key here isn't just the numbers, it's understanding the language. You have to know what per annum means, that the 8% interest is for the whole year. So the exam isn't just testing if you can multiply and divide, it's testing if you can understand the vocabulary of finance and apply it correctly.
And as you can see, it goes way beyond just loans. We're talking calculating overtime pay, understanding bank fees, hire purchase agreements, currency exchange, the whole shebang. It's clearly designed to build a complete financial toolkit. So let's move on and see what other big theme this exam hits on.
The next major area this exam dives into is all about spatial reasoning. It's about understanding shapes, spaces, and the structures that make up our physical world. And it moves you from simple, flat, two-dimensional figures to more complex three-dimensional objects.
It starts with a concept like this, from Paper 1. The test wants to know if you can recognize that these two triangles are similar, meaning they have the same shape but they're different sizes. If you can spot that relationship, you can use it to figure out an unknown length. It's really about spotting patterns and understanding proportion.
Then, the exam literally adds a dimension. Here you're asked to find the length of a diagonal inside a rectangular box. This makes you mentally navigate a 3D space and apply geometric ideas, like the Pythagorean theorem, more than once.
And this is just a brilliant example of how these concepts get applied in the real world. In Paper 2, students have to map out a hunter's path using bearings. So this isn't just about abstract shapes anymore. It's about navigation. It's about combining your understanding of angles, distance, and direction all into one practical problem. Okay, our final core theme is all about making sense of a world filled with uncertainty. This part of the exam is testing a student's ability to look at data and to understand the basic principles of probability and chance.
So you get a classic problem like this one, a bag of marbles. It's a really straightforward probability question, but it's testing a foundational skill. Can you calculate the likelihood of one specific outcome out of all the total possibilities?
Looking at it visually like this makes it even clearer, right? There are 9 marbles in total, and only 2 of them are green. The probability is just the part divided by the whole. This really shows how a simple dataset can be used to figure out chance.
But the exam goes deeper than that. It asks about things like quartiles, which are used to understand not just the average of a dataset, but how that data is spread out. It tests whether you can slice data into 4 equal parts to see where the bulk of the values really lie.
It's a much more sophisticated level of data analysis than just finding the average.
So, after taking this whole exam apart, its structure, its content, what have we really learned? What does this test ultimately tell us about what it values in a math student?
When you look at the whole picture, it's crystal clear this exam values a very specific set of skills. It is not just about abstract numbers. It prioritizes practical financial knowledge, the ability to think in both 2D and 3D, and the skill to interpret data and probability. And maybe most importantly, it values the ability to actually communicate your thinking.
And this brings us right back to the difference between the two papers. This one instruction from paper 2 is maybe the most revealing sentence in the entire exam. The answer itself isn't enough. The destination is important, sure, but the journey, the logical, step-by-step process you took to get there is just as critical.
Ultimately, an exam is a statement of values. It's how a society decides what knowledge matters. And by building a test around financial literacy, spatial reasoning, and clear logical communication, this exam sends a really powerful message. And it leaves us with a final question to think about. What does the way we test our students truly say about what we want them to become?